Morning, guys. William here with Patriot Containers. Today is Tuesday, the 19th of August. Um, I keep making these videos because I enjoy making them. I enjoy sharing the truth about the cargo container industry. That being said, I've been selling containers for 13 years. I've owned my own business for 11 years, and I used to work for horrible companies that taught me a trade. I know exactly what the bad companies are doing to you guys. I study the bad companies and their evolution of tricks and tactics on how to make sales, and then their terms and conditions on how they can get away with lying to you, but never being accountable. And my business was started because I didn't like working at bad companies that ripped off my customers. I made the sale, but all the back end work was the company, not me. And I couldn't do it anymore. So I started my own business, and my motto is tell people the truth, deliver on the right day, and show up with a good used container, not a bad used container, a good used container, or new ones. I love it when people buy new ones. It's really easy. Um, that being said, the most common term that's abused and it's abused on the seller side and it's abused on the buyer side. It's the term wind and watertight. And I think I'm going to make a six-part series here, which is in this video we're going to describe with what wind and watertight really is. A lot of customers call, and I truly believe they have no idea of what they're really asking for. They're just using a common phrase that they hear in the industry constantly. And that term is WWT, wind and watertight. Everybody wants a container that has no holes. Everybody says, I'm putting something in this container. Of course you are. That's why you're buying the container. But of course you don't want a container with holes. I'm here to tell you that wind and watertight is actually a bad container. So I always get somebody that calls me, and my intention is really to help somebody. Some people don't want help. They just want you to give them a price without listening to the help that's offered to them. Most people say this, I'm putting stuff in this. I just want something cheap that doesn't leak. I need it to be wind and watertight. Of course you do. Nobody wants a container with holes. I have ran into people that have called me and they're like, hey, I don't care if it has holes. I'm a welder. I've sold to welders. They complain also. You could have a container that has no holes in it and the door shut and latch, and it looks like hell. It doesn't leak and it functions fine, but it will make customers upset. Wind and watertight is not you have a totem pole of the worst containers climbing up all the way to the top, and at the very top is a brand new one called a one tripper. Below that one is another condition. Below that one is another condition. In the middle is wind and watertight. Below wind and watertight is as is, and below as is damaged. And I'll explain those 5 other conditions in separate videos after this. This specific video is about the most commonly abused term in this industry that will never go away. It's just a common term that people request. If you call me, I will tell you that what wind and watertight really is and why you should not buy it. If you call 90% of cargo container companies, they're going to tell you the exact opposite because they want to make a sale. They don't care about you or your container. The most slickest way to sell something to somebody is by giving them minimal information about what they're buying. They're not telling you with what it is. They're just saying, Yes, it's wind and watertight, but that doesn't mention looks at all. And wind and watertight can be the worst container you've ever seen. I can purchase wind and watertight containers for my customers. If I do that, I will have a high rating of complaints. Patriot Containers doesn't have complaints. I have 3 complaints but these 3 people never bought a container from me in 11 years. The reason why is I sell better containers. These other companies, and I'm telling you, 90% of companies do this, and they're all the same. We're nationwide, lifetime warranties, money back guarantees, all this hoopla to tell you so they can make a sale. But once you make the sale, you're stuck and you can't get out. If they take 3 months to deliver, you're stuck with a cancellation fee. If they bring you out a crappy container with or without holes, they're going to charge you a restocking fee. If they tell you to keep the container and you have a return policy, they're not telling you that you're going to have to, when you want to return it and get your money back, you're going to lose the delivery that brought it there, and you're going to lose the delivery from coming back and getting it. So if you paid $2,000 and your delivery was $700, you're going to lose $1,400, and you're only going to get $600 back. So you're not getting your $2,000 back. Everything that I'm saying is on their websites. At the very, very bottom, there's a little thing called terms and conditions. Back to what I was saying. Wind and watertight. Everybody wants a wind and watertight container. They're not good containers, people. It actually gets worse than that, though. If you have a company that has no morals and standards, and every terms and conditions in the book, to where they don't have to be accountable, or if you pay by Zelle to these companies, there's nothing you can do. They can sell you a wind and watertight container, but purchase you a damaged or as is container, which is actually even worse. But over the years of me doing this, and I've sold anywhere from over 10,000, under 20,000, let's just say 15,000 containers. I don't have a single employee that does anything for me. I sell it, I purchase my containers, I schedule my containers, I follow up with my customers. I provide a real service in this industry that does not. I'm not overpriced. I'm just not underpriced because I don't buy junk from my customers. And wind and watertight, when somebody sells it to you and then delivers it, let's say they show up with the most horrendous looking rust bucket container and it doesn't leak. It's wind and watertight. Most people that say they don't care about how containers look, they always care about how it looks. They always do. Most people don't know with what they're buying, so they're using the term wind and watertight because it's the term that they've heard 10 times when they call companies. When I sell my containers, I have to go out of my way to not use the term wind and watertight because my containers don't leak, but my containers look better than wind and watertight. So if I mention wind and watertight, somebody else is going to make the sale because they're saying wind and watertight too, but they're really selling you a wind and watertight container, or possibly even worse. Good containers that look good, they don't leak. And they are called something else, cargo worthy or IICL or new one trippers. If I mention the term wind and watertight, so how I like to say it is I sell good containers that look good visually and they also can't leak. They don't leak, but I can't say the word wind and watertight because I'm not selling that junk to my customers. So when you guys as customers are asking for wind and watertight, you don't know this, but you're actually asking for a bad container. And these companies, they want to make a sale. They don't really care about what you want. They don't care about what you need. They don't care about what you're putting inside of it. They don't care anything other than it. They want to look at you as a commission. And when you ask for it, they're going to give it to you. If you say, hey, I want a good container that's wind and watertight, they're not hearing you want a good container. They're hearing wind and watertight. And back to these companies that have warranties, their warranty says a leak-proof container. Well, they'll deliver you a container with holes in it, which means they didn't even sell you wind and watertight. They sold you damaged or as is. And then they send, for their loophole of a warranty is sending you like JB Weld or a fiberglass patch kit. But the fact is they didn't even do their part of the agreement of bringing you a container with no holes. They brought you a container with no holes. And if you go on their YouTube channels, they teach you how to repair their crappy products that they sell their customers. Wind and watertight, in my opinion, it's not a good container. And it's very rare to find somebody with such low standards that you can deliver them a rusty old junky container with no holes and they're gonna be happy. Most people are not going to be happy if they actually get an acceptable wind and watertight container. People that buy containers, they do care about cosmetics. The one thing that makes people super angry, it's not surface rust that you can sand off with sandpaper. It's rust that's embedded into the metal. And when you see and I'm talking about not just one section, it could be all over the doors, all over the hinges, all around the container, on the roof. It's everywhere. But if there's no holes, it's wind and watertight. So the whole purpose of this video is wind and watertight's bad. You should not buy it. You should not request it. You should ask for a good container that visually looks good, that doesn't leak. Now, if you run into a company that says, oh, we only sell one used, and if you need a container that looks good, you have to buy new. That's untrue. What they're doing is they're telling you you can only buy a good new one. That's the only way to get a good container, or you have to buy their crappy one. There are good containers that they are not purchasing for their customers. They are called cargo worthy and they're called IICL. If they do not offer that, and some of these companies cross-reference them, well, they say, well, we have cargo worthy, wind and watertight in the same line item. They're not the same line item. You have cargo worthy and then you have wind and watertight. You can't have both on the same category because they both come with different purchase prices and different invoices and different release numbers. So anyways, the purpose of this video is wind and watertight's bad. If I sell wind and watertight every single day, 8 out of 10 sales are going to be complaints on my business, problems for me, or I have to return money, or I have to the customer rejects the container and it has to come back. When you call Patriot Containers, I'm going to sell you a good quality used container, and it's not going to be much more money, but it'll be a lot less headache for you. It'll be a lot less headache for me. Wind and watertight is bad. It does not mean it looks good at all. It only means no holes. But these companies, they are not selling you wind and watertight containers. They're selling you damaged and as is, and that's how you guys are getting containers with holes. But if their paperwork actually says wind and watertight on it, it's like 1 out of 20 that actually is acceptable. 19 out of 20 looks like crap, and you will complain about it. You weren't told with what it looks like up until it gets there, and then when they go, well, does it have holes? And you say no, wind and watertight, sorry, and they don't care because they didn't tell you the truth in the beginning. Wind and watertight's bad. If you care about the way your container looks, do not buy it. If you want a good looking container, call me. I will quote it accurately. I'll quote you a crappy container that these other companies are selling you just so I can reference their price margin versus mine on a good one, so you know that a crappy container costs this, but a good one costs this. And then when these companies say, well, we're selling good ones too at this price, it ain't this one, it's the crappy one. So anyways, guys, that's it. Happy Tuesday. Have a great one. Bye.